Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to part two of our conversation about the series Them. I want to encourage you like, share, subscribe this content with the people you know would benefit from hearing it. We're excited really to dig into some specific episodes tonight. Just want to encourage you to remember the purpose of why we do what we do. We do it because we recognize, even though we haven't walked in the shoes of people who are not like us, that we've been called to understand, to ask questions, to learn from one another, to listen. And so I want to encourage you tonight, continue to listen, have an open mind, and maybe, just maybe, in our generation, we'll see some of these issues begin to subside. Because I want my world, I want my kids' world to be different from the world that I grew up in. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed tonight's content. Part two of our conversation around Amazon's series, Them.
So I want to dig into some specific episodes, and that's kind of where we're going to land the plane, if you will, today. We talked a lot of it about episode 9, which was, I think, a big turning point in the show to build the context to lead up to episode 10. So let's kind of walk through some powerful moments in the show. One powerful episode that we kind of talked about already was episode 5. I don't think you can go through the show without talking about episode 5. It is the linchpin of the show. I would say, honestly, it's so well done that it makes 6 through 10 kind of like pale in comparison to episode 5.
We were saying, was it 7 and 8? We thought was you could just
the
combine those
subplots,
into one
you
episode.
Combine that into
you
one
didn't need to stretch it out
You
into
really
2 episodes.
only 8 episodes. For this
It
series.
should have been an 8-episode season, not a 10-episode season. But
So to give you a little bit of context, the characters in the show are so important to understanding, but in this, what's interesting is there's not really any sub-characters in episode 5. Now, here's some fun
Very
facts.
short episode, too.
It is, and I think it's intentional. So they didn't have, Little Marvin wasn't a part of episode 5. They actually had a female director come in and do it because of what takes place.
Yes.
So just as a forewarning, if you haven't watched the show, understand episode 5 shows a couple of very traumatic things. It shows what happens to the baby. They have a little boy in the show as well, an infant baby boy, Chester. And he is in essence murdered by this family. You begin to see that.
To explain the family, because you're saying
Sorry,
this family.
yes. So the Henry and Lucky have also a little baby boy at the beginning of the show, Chester, but you don't see him when they're going to California, and you're kind of anticipating what happened. And episode 5 gives you that answer. It kind of gives you the answer that this white family saw Dad and Ruby and Grace leave, and when that happened, they walked down the road, and the men in the family sexually assault Lucky, and they force her to watch them toss her baby boy in a circle, yelling "cat in the bag," until the boy eventually passes. And so it is a gut-wrenching, difficult, hard episode to watch. It is not one that I recommend watching before you go to bed. It's not one that I recommend you watching alone. It is a hard watch. It's a hard watch. And you see it play out later in Grace, who at school begins to repeat the same phrasing of cat in the bag, and it begins this dialogue. So I say that to say episode 5. When we look at that episode, the implications of that episode, the trauma in that episode, the pain in that episode, let's talk about it. How, Brandon and Dana specifically, how did you receive episode 5? What did that do to you? How did that affect you? What did that bring up for you? How did that shape kind of your view of the show? Talk to me a little bit about that particular episode.
Okay, so there's so many aspects that affected me in this. The first aspect that affected me was I realized that, it didn't hit me so hard. And the reason why it didn't hit me so hard is because I expected it. To be honest, I expected it. Maybe not the cat in the bag part of them literally putting the baby inside of the pillowcase and wrapping and swinging him around. I didn't see that coming, but the rape part definitely saw it coming.
Yeah.
I honestly thought, this is gonna sound terrible, but I honestly thought that the hanging of the baby dolls outside of the episode in 1, I can't remember if it was before.
I think it was episode
I
It was
thought
2.
I thought that's what was going to happen. That they were going to lynch the baby, and that was going to kind of but they took a hard turn, which I'm glad. I definitely couldn't have watched that. But it is, I mean, they just tossed this baby around. But I hate that that's even something that you were like, this is what's gonna happen.
This is like, see, for me personally, it's like, it's not as traumatic when you live through like Trayvon Martin. You watch George Floyd with a knee on his neck and die. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen my people die all my life.
Yeah.
So seeing her get raped was like, I could see that coming. The big implication for me was, and this, I think it might be subliminal, or maybe it's just me catching this or taking this from it, but the attack on the black male specifically. Notice that it was a black baby boy who was killed. Notice also that the mom was attacked when the man was not there to protect
her.
Right? So when I look at it, I see those implications. The symbolism of it is that it's divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And then the next step is, after you divide and conquer, you kill the children.
Yeah.
You kill the baby boys so that way they can't even
Cut off.
have. Right? You cut the heritage
generation.
off.
Cut
You
the
cut,
family line off.
you cut it off because you can't pass it on without men.
Yeah.
And so that was the implication. The imagery that I saw from it was that it shows that there's been a purposeful attack on the man. Divide the family and then to kill the man.
Yeah.
And then it brings you back to modern day, because I still seen it happen in America to this day. There's an attack on black men to emasculate, feminize, make them gay, or incarcerate, lock them up. Okay, slavery is now abolished except for what? The punishment of a crime. That is the 13th Amendment that still exists in this country to this day.
Yeah.
And you have so many black people who are in jail right now for something as simple as weed.
Yeah.
But now, because you can find a way to tax it, because you can control it, now it's totally okay.
Yeah.
And so I see, that's what I see out of episode 5, is like, it shows me the overarching theme of divide the family, kill the man, and you can crumble everything else.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw.
And it affects the family. And I'm so glad you said that you were like not affected, but not in a way that, you know, it didn't matter, but just in a way that you expected it.
Yeah, right.
Me too. I just, like, my reaction was just so subdued. As a woman, and as a black woman, I connected with her being completely vulnerable and powerless.
Powerless.
And, you know, just going to, and then you could see it in her eyes, this, oh my gosh, she played this part and this scene so well. You could just see her going blank. Like, you could just see that there's nothing I can do. So I'm just going to retreat into myself. I'm just going to go into a place.
Cut it off.
And just cut it off. Like, you know, this is not going to end well. And she knew that as soon as, you know, she knew that they were coming into the house. You know, she was trying to keep her baby safe. Like, okay, I'll take it. I just want to make you safe. And then as soon as that, like, oh gosh, she just played it so well. But I saw the rape coming. I do see the divide and conquer. Whereas, you know, back from slave times where, you know, the man was forced to watch his wife being raped. That's an emasculation. You know
and
what
then
I'm
he
saying?
got butt busted, which
And
is
then
get raped in the butt.
Exactly. And so for me, I could identify with her as a woman, and I just went numb. Like, because I just, you know, and so I saw the scene, and then I cut it off, and I needed like 24 hours to just kind of decompress from all that, you know.
Numb is the best word I've heard.
Yeah.
Numb, like that's how I felt.
Yeah.
It was like numb, like I've seen this plot.
And I felt her. You know, that's what I'm saying. She played that episode and that scene so well, because the essence of her came to me. Like, I could just see it when she just went blank. You know, just knowing, okay, there's no turning back from this. You know, there's no turning back.
And then in episode 10, you see almost a very similar situation occur with the girls, and when Henry's being attacked by the men, that you almost are like, and he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Protect. That's like, kill me, but just don't touch my girls. Like, don't.
But then
do
even that vulnerability for that black man. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, You are powerless. You're supposed to be the protector, the head, the provider. And they've now for 10 days
Yeah.
seen their dad just be completely just broken down and disrespected. And he's having to sit there, you know what I'm saying, being beat in front of his children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
And
yeah,
then
that was.
it also tells me like the trauma that it has on black marriage, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, as that black woman, she's like, how can I respect you as a man and
You can't protect me.
But then as a black man, it's like, bro, I was trying to take my daughters to the movie. I was trying to be that guy.
Yeah.
I was trying to be a father in my children's house, and I was still not at the right place at the right time. Right? That's what Tap Man kept saying. You're wrong place at wrong time
Oh
again.
gosh, I wrote that, yeah.
And it's like, man, like it's a catch-22. Either you lose or you lose. And that, when you have to walk around in that aspect every single day of your life, it has implications and effects that I feel like can't be put into words, but can be seen in the divorce rate, can be seen in the incarceration rate, can be seen in the homosexuality rate. Every day, it still has its implications to this day.
Yeah, Tap Dance Man said, don't let them know you're thinking.
Mm.
You gonna get us killed.
Oh, you done it
You
now.
done it now.
That guy was hands down the best character.
Oh, man.
He just drove the storyline so well.
Oh, man, he was
Tap Dance
100%.
Man.
Like when they were
Technically on
at the
IMDb it's
table.
DA, duh, Tap Dance Man. But, like, he just, I mean, the way he drove Henry, which is really just Henry driving Henry.
Driving Henry,
a lot
right.
of Fight Club illustrations there of, like, that kind of, again, mental health situation that's going on. Dustin, anything to add before we go into episode 10? That's kind of the last one I want to talk through before we wrap up.
Yeah, I was. I'm a little disturbed right now that they weren't impacted by that in the way that I was, and it's kind of eye opening for me. I thought before the men arrived in episode 5, the white men arrived at the house, that she was going to steal his baby and enslave him.
That's where I went. Yeah.
That's where I thought it was going to go. Never, and I don't think any of us thought that they were going to do what they did, which.
I did not see that.
But I think the rape hurt me more than that, because as a father and a husband, I just hurt.
Yeah.
That was very difficult for me to watch. I'm not gonna lie to you. There were a couple times throughout that scene where I hit this plus 10 seconds button because I just could not take it.
Just the sounds, the other sounds.
Couldn't take the sounds of it.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and I knew it was happening. And,
Right, without
I'm
seeing
not.
the picture.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I was surprised by the rape, more than I was disgusted and hurt. When I watch things like that as a husband and a father, it doesn't matter if it's a Hallmark commercial or this show, I just imagine my wife or my kids. Yeah.
Boiling, like.
And, yeah, it's just, I just hurt. It hurt me.
Yeah, it was hands down, I think, the most powerful episode. It made me not want to leave my family alone.
That's true.
It made me want to buy a big old gun for my wife.
The depravity of it
Yeah,
all.
it really is.
You know, because not to like make light of the rape, but, why not just that?
Why not kill her?
Like
Because now that she
why?
has to live with that for the rest of her life, it's more
Yeah,
traumatizing for her to have to live with what has happened to her and her baby
and her baby.
than it is for them to just take a rock and smash her head in and be done with it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I thought of was like, yo, like, for you to hate these people so much, why would you want to put your penis inside?
Yes.
Your raw penis. I know you ain't put on no condoms.
Because they're sick.
Yeah, that's where it's like,
Which takes another layer back to, I'm not gonna get into it again, but just takes another layer back to what's there. You can clearly see from the very opening scene of the whole thing in episode 1, when that old white lady walks up to their house. You can tell, it doesn't take a psychiatrist to figure out, she's crazy.
yeah.
And I'm not saying crazy in the sense of like, watch out, man, that chick's crazy. I'm saying she has a mental health
Yeah.
breakdown.
Yeah.
What happened to her?
Right.
Right.
Right. Just like Betty. She
Just
probably
like
was
Betty.
she probably was in the bathtub
With the
getting raped by
bathtub.
Dad.
Just like Betty, exactly right.
That's why I said we're dealing with demons. Like everybody. Everybody.
There's no one untouched in this
Nobody.
in this series.
Yep.
Man,
Not a one.
nobody's
Not
untouched.
not even Grace.
Not even the
The
milkman.
Not even the little girl.
the baby girl, or the baby who couldn't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about episode 10, which is the culmination of the whole show. A lot of things happen. We don't need to necessarily dig into every single thing that happens in there.
Can we talk about the smack?
This is the best part of the whole show.
Smack.
When Lucky
Lucky
smacks
smacks
Betty.
Betty.
That's not
Oh,
episode
okay.
10.
I
That's
know it's
what-
not,
but it is a
but
good
man.
I
slapper,
think that's
that's
eight.
right.
Like
It's
the
a good
towards
moment.
the end of
I
eight.
just want
It
to
is.
tell everybody that yes, it is difficult to watch and you will hate some of the things that are happening, but there are some moments, okay? There are some moments
Yeah.
that those antagonists just
They
they
get- they get
get
theirs.
it.
But
They
I'll
get
say
it.
like the biggest moment for me, and we'll get right into episode 10 after this, is, I know this is going to sound weird, but the moment where her, Lucky, and Henry have a moment of passion, of intimacy again, because it just displayed for me the unconditional love
Yeah.
that can be had when you're fighting in a healthy place. Now, they're not at that
Right.
moment, right? It goes from that to something very different. But there is this semblance of hope in the midst of the darkness.
Yeah, I took that scene completely different. I took when they had that moment of intimacy. I felt Lucky's pain.
Mm.
She was hurting so bad, and she desired closeness so much, but didn't know how to get out of her own head.
Yeah.
That was the only way that she knew how to be close to Henry in that moment. Not that there was anything wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
Totally legit, married couple, consensual, obviously, like nothing wrong with it at all. But I knew in that moment her motive was not physical pleasure.
Yeah,
Her motive was
Emotional
was
release.
emotional acceptance.
Yeah.
that's good.
Mm.
So episode 10 happens, and the culminate, I want to talk about a couple things that happen in episode 10. I think there are some moments that are pivotal. So every member of the family fights a battle with their prospective demons. Grace is up against Miss Vera. Ruby is up against this girl that has been
White teenage girl.
this white teenage girl, and she's been
Right.
attempting to please and has been, in her mind, leading her
has
to this
been
place.
befriending her.
Exactly. That we find out along the way is fake. Lucky is battling her demons, and eventually she's
man
kind
in
of
black
she's kind of the ultimate final. The penultimate is really Henry, and this tap dance man who we just got to talk about this guy for a second. And Brandon, we all talked about this because we kind of argued back and forth for a minute when we talked about it at the end of the
Just
show.
creep me out, bro.
It was his teeth for me. His
It
gums
was,
was so
yeah.
pink.
Yeah.
He was
his
the
mouth
perfect
was-
fit.
His smile was just like, oh my gosh, he's playing this character.
So this
Yeah.
role, for those of you who haven't seen, it's a black man playing a guy in blackface that is Henry's demon. This is who he's fighting up against. And the interesting part for me is the very end of their battle. Now we talked about this, and Dana was like, "No, that ain't true," but Brandon and I agree, and I went to make sure I wasn't crazy.
I I was wrong.
And so at the end, they, when he defeats his demon, they wipe off the face paint.
Henry does.
And yeah, Henry comes, wipes off his face paint, and it is a white man underneath the black face. Now we talked about the implications of that,
Which behind the scenes, it was a black man who played
who played it
blackface.
the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just a director's decision to say, hey, when you go up and wipe his face off, the blackface makeup off his face, it's going to be a white person, because historically,
Yeah.
that was one of the, I don't even think that's a microaggression, that's a major
That's a
aggression.
that's a straight
But
up
That's a
historically,
bullet in your
if you don't
face.
know anything about blackface, historically white people would paint their faces and their bodies black to make fun of African Americans.
Correct.
And so that was his demon was a blackface person. Clearly was a black man with black face on, but then when he wipes his face at the end, it's a white person. I will tell you before y'all say what you're gonna say.
Sure, yeah.
My initial thought, because I was watching it on my phone, was I had to pause it and almost kind of zoom in and like screen grab and zoom in. My thought was that the white man behind the black face was his boss at work. That was my first thought. And then I watched the commentary from Little Marvin, and he was just like, it's just a white man, it's just a random white dude. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. So Brandon, I'll let you speak into this, because we had a similar conversation. I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So speak into a little bit where we kind of landed with this, because I thought it was
So
interesting.
the thought process I had behind it was that the tap dance man represented the conscience of Henry. However, the conscience of Henry was led and directed by a white narrative.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
So his consciousness
100%.
was not truly the consciousness of himself.
He's got a white job.
Right.
Lives in a white neighborhood.
Right.
He's got the TV watching the white people on the TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everything he wants
Yeah.
is a white life. He's basically Ruby in adult male form.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And so when you look at his conscience, you're thinking it's him the whole time. And for me, it's like he's thinking it's him the whole time.
Yeah.
Until he finally breaks out of it and realizes, like, dang, the thought process I've had about myself this whole time was not even led by me or by my culture. It was led by somebody else, and by the way somebody else is looking at me, in the way somebody else is making me think of myself.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
that was heavy.
Because Henry thought people saw him like the tap dance man. That was my interpretation of that. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Like
Sure.
even when he's at
Absolutely.
the company party and the tap dance man gets up there and starts like up
Yes.
and jiving. That's when I
Yes.
first was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's his conscience.
Who's
Yeah.
not really there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He's not really
At
there.
first I thought it was really there, and I was like about to throw it down. I was like, how dare you bring a black-faced man to this party when you know you got a black employee? I was about to get lit.
Super
I was
rude.
so mad.
Yeah, I didn't realize that that these were like subconsciouses till
Yeah.
like later on in the series. I started to
Yeah.
realize like, oh, these aren't real people.
Yeah, about halfway
Yeah.
through I picked up on that, but
And then, but there were also some other parts that I don't know if this was episode 10 or not, but there were other parts where it was like you couldn't tell whether or not this was imaginary or not. Like when she
Yeah.
dipped her hand in that paint and then
Oh,
she
yeah,
went
that
to the
was 10.
bonfire and
Yeah.
started doing the
Yeah.
dance. I was like, is she dreaming that,
Right,
or is
right.
this really happening? But then when she
when
comes
she
to her
came
mom,
out
Yeah.
to her mom and
She
said,
came
I'm
to her,
sorry,
"I'm
that's
sorry."
when I knew it was real. I was the same way with you. I was
Right.
like, she's dreaming of what it would be like to do this.
Yeah.
right? That's
But
what
no,
I'm
she
To
thinking.
be accepted.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
right.
all she wanted at the
That's
end
all
of the
she
day.
wanted was acceptance.
Just wanted to be in the
Yeah.
fold,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is a terror.
It's a natural human desire.
Yeah.
Right. To be accepted, right, amongst the group.
Imagine that.
Amongst the major group, right. And then another part that I see, and I think this is part of episode 10, was that everybody who went through a breaking space, they were right at the place. It was a crossroads. Like when the girl who was looking herself in the mirror, she had that thing in her knife, the glass in her hand,
Yes.
and there was either like kill your mom or kill yourself,
yourself.
right? That was a moment. Henry had one more bullet.
Yeah.
He could have killed the conscious.
Yeah.
And that was when the moment when I was like, is he gonna bang
Right.
himself, right? Same thing with Miss Vera when she took hold of her mom. Like the daughter could have just sat there and let mom get choked out, or you can go and
Yeah.
make a difference in the midst of this situation.
Yeah.
And so that was
Yeah.
what I also seen in episode 10 was it was that crossroads for everybody.
Yeah.
Where it's like, are you gonna take your life and let this situation take your life, or are you gonna take back control of your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, are you going to let it take you,
Yeah.
or are you going to take it?
Yeah.
Right.
And I just want to point out one thing that it's kind of throughout the whole series, but especially in episode 10, so many times, and it actually was Henry to Lucky most of the series, where he would look at her in a moment where she was kind of losing it, and he would say, "We got this." And then in the last episode, it was the other way around.
She said it.
Lucky said it to Henry. He
Yeah.
said, "We got this."
Yeah.
And the first time that phrase was uttered in the show, I thought to myself, no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have it. Because you're not taking the necessary steps to have it.
Yeah.
You're following the subconscious. You're following the lead of these characters that we now know are imaginary. But at the end of the show, what I realized is that it comes full circle back to the mental health thing again, where it's not I got this, it's not you got this, it's we got
We got
this.
this.
Romans 1:12.
That's the only way you got this,
Yeah.
is with we.
Yeah.
You don't have it, just like his shirt. You have it when we're together,
together.
not when we're divided.
Yeah.
Right.
And that to me was like the the penultimate of the whole series.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I seen how like there was a support system that was needed.
Yes.
Because at the beginning, it was the wife needing the support from the husband, but
Yeah.
like you said, it switched at the end. But I saw where there was a negative side of that because when the husband was talking to the police, and he was like, she ain't being herself, she's doing a little crazy or whatever. That was the moment where the wife was like, oh, you're not on my team.
Yeah.
And that's what made her go fix that pie. If you notice, she fixed that pie
She
for
fixed the
him
pie for him.
Oh,
out of spite.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That pie was fixed for him out of spite because it was like, you call me crazy, well, you the one
You
can't
the one
take
can't
fruit.
take
You can't even eat
Right.
a pie.
Right, you calling me crazy, right? And
Right.
you can see where like that creates
Yeah.
conflict.
Conflict.
Right, as opposed to bringing them closer
Reconciliation.
together,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I can definitely see that part of it.
My only beef with episode 10, I think I told both of y'all this already, maybe not you yet, but no resolution just drove me nuts.
Yeah.
I'm not, I think there's tons of symbolism there of why there was no resolution. And I get that from an artistic standpoint. At the end of the day, this is a show.
Closure.
I need closure.
Cliffhanger.
Because I'm like, because I was telling him, you're so emotionally invested into
Yes.
these characters by the end of the show that you want to know they're going to be okay, or you just want to know what happens to
Yeah.
them because you care about this character.
Right.
Like they're a real person. You care about every single member of that family. You go,
Yeah.
okay, well, is Lucky going back to the nut house?
Yeah.
Is the dad going to be arrested for killing that cop?
Right.
Sorry, I'm spoiling all these things for y'all.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, we got
Right.
You know what I
If
mean?
they've lasted this long, they can take the spoilers.
Right,
That's
and
fine.
then if that happens, the girls are orphans now.
Yeah.
And now we're into a whole nother
Now we're
thing.
in a whole new realm.
Now we got a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. The end can, and there were, listen, let me just say, this show is not perfect.
Mm-mm.
There are things that were weird, like the fire in the front yard
Yeah.
when she walks past it, and I mean, that's just,
And
there's some weird stuff that
that was
happens.
just,
I get it.
I thought that was a
but
little over the top.
It's all symbolism, I think.
it is. I mean, they're harkening back to everything. I mean, you just begin to see everything come full circle. But if you're looking for a show that's going to be like clean, perfect, pristine, like this isn't it.
No way.
It's not it.
But it does, I think, address real issues, dig into some really hard conversations, and expose some things that maybe people weren't aware of prior to even entering this show's conversation. And I think it opens up good conversation towards that spiritual battle, the mental health battle,
Yeah.
the racial battles that
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, we have to continue to have
This
conversations
show is
about.
a conversation starter.
It
It's
is.
not a
Definitely.
conversation finisher.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And that's just where our minds are, honestly. You know,
Mhm.
I say that in jest, but like that's where our minds are. That's what we're trained. We're trained to have the conversation come to an end with a bow on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't have
Right.
that.
And
This-
that's what I
this
think
is
the
not
movie was
that.
doing, even though it made us all uncomfortable because it had no conclusion.
Clear, yeah.
It says so heavily that there's not a clear-cut answer to
True.
this problem. There's not a
True.
one response of how this ends.
True.
There's so many dynamics of how this situation can end. I just want to leave you there to think
Yeah.
of the fact of how much the residual that this is going to have,
For
the
sure.
residual effect that this is going to have.
Yep.
And you don't know what that's going to be. And that kind of also speaks to the fact of how careful we have to be with how we carry ourselves and how we treat people because you
Yes.
don't know
Don't know.
the
going
long-term
through.
residual effects of that little pebble
No,
that
and
you put
don't
in the
know what
bucket.
they're going through. You don't know if that pebble is the last one that they
Mm.
can take.
Yeah.
Or if it's the beginning of a long road for them. And
Man.
I want to say this one thing about racism too in this show. Brandon said this earlier. As far as what this show opened my eyes to was how black people, not just then but now, are in a lose or lose situation. There's so many shows that we watch, like Comstock and I will binge all sorts of shows that we love. Ozark is one of them. I watch Ozark and I think, how are they going to get out of this? They can't. They are going to lose one way or the other. It's just a matter of how the story goes for them to lose. That fictitious story is real for black people in America. It's real.
Every day.
How do you want to lose? Do you want to lose big or do you want to lose small?
Mm.
Do you want to lose publicly or do you want to lose privately? Take it further. It's the same thing for our mental health. How do you want to lose? Do you want to lose privately or do you want to lose publicly? Let me just tell you, if your mental health, publicly you will not lose. You can't. You cannot lose.
When you
publicly.
expose it.
You got to expose it. You have to
Yeah,
expose it,
you
and that's
don't
what they
reveal.
did, and that's what they did in the last episode. They exposed every one of their demons, met them face on. When she ran back to the basement to go face the man in the black hat, I was like,
Yeah.
do not go in there.
Don't do it, girl.
This is not going to end well for you.
Right.
But at the end, I was like, so proud she did.
Yeah.
Did you
I'm glad
notice
you
that
win.
what the wind that she had was simply walking away?
Yeah.
It wasn't killing him. It wasn't like
it was telling him the truth.
mm,
The truth won. The truth is what brought the man of lies down.
Yeah.
She looked into his face and kept repeating the truth
Yeah.
over and over to
Yeah.
him until it destroyed the
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
That part.
That's what it takes.
Yeah.
And that phrase that she says, "I see you."
Yep.
Shouldn't I say it? Because it's like, I see you for who
I
you
see
are.
you.
Yep.
I see you for your lies.
Yeah.
I
Real
see you
you.
for your deception. I
Yeah.
see
See how
you for
you
your
affected my
division.
family,
I
right.
see, I see
I
your
see all of it.
attacks.
Uh-huh.
I see all of it, bro.
Yeah.
And the power that you thought you had
You
in
don't.
the, and recognize it.
Yeah.
She takes that cross that in episode 9 the woman had picked up and handed to him. She takes what was his source of power in scripture, twisting, manipulating,
Yeah.
takes that source of power, throws it on the ground, which blinds him,
Yes.
and now he is not able to see any longer. And
Yeah.
his reality is, I saw through blinded eyes. Really, I saw this division. I saw this fakeness. I saw what I twisted to be
Yeah.
true,
Right.
and that's been exposed now. And the power that I thought I had is gone
Zero.
in a blink of an eye.
Yeah. I don't want to talk more about the man in the black hat, but we can do that off camera. I don't want to make this a 2-hour episode.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, this is great. So I want to give any
What's
any
next?
opportunity
What
for
episode-
final. Yeah.
What series is next?
Yeah, we'll keep going. Any final thoughts? And this is kind of how I like to wrap up the show. I like to wrap up the show always by giving some opportunity for resources, giving some opportunity for things that people can watch, read, study, look at, all those things. I always have a list of things, but I always defer to my guests first. And then I will supplement anything that I might have that y'all didn't mention yet. So doesn't matter. Any of you can toss out whatever you've got. So what y'all got? What are some ways that we can grow?
I think some of the ways that we can grow is understanding that we face a harsh reality. And with this harsh reality, there inevitably has to be harsh conversations.
Yeah.
And with those genuine, true conversations that may be harsh, it can still be done from a space of love.
Yeah.
And I also, the biggest thing that I think we can take away from this is not allowing, like, the past, not allowing what happened or what has happened to you personally. Don't allow it to control your future.
Yes.
Don't allow what you've been through to control your future. If anything, allow it to be a catalyst that pushes you forward in the future, a place of growth. Let it be the mission that you have. I'll give my personal testimony. I grew up in a single parent household, and I saw the lack of male role models there. And so I was at a crux in my life of, do I just allow that to be my reasoning for going off and not doing what I need to do?
Yeah.
Or do I say, all right, let me try to be that role model for as many young men as possible?
Right.
And so that's where I'm like, my encouragement to anybody who may be watching this is to take whatever you've been through and allow that to be your fuel
Yeah.
to fire your mission to help somebody else who's going through that. Because
Yeah.
you're going through that to literally be an assistance to somebody else who's going to go through something very, very
Right.
similar.
Yeah.
Right.
And for those of you who don't know, Brandon runs a great organization called Men's Club, where he does exactly what he's talking about.
Yep.
Develops, invests in, loves on, and really builds character within these young black men that he gets to speak life into.
Yeah.
Brings in speakers and men all over Douglasville, really, and Carroll County, that just come in and pour into these young men. And they serve together, they work together. They don't mess around.
Nah.
It's intense. So I just appreciate your heart to not just talk a talk, but to walk it as well.
Right.
That's great. Dustin, do you have any resources? Sorry, you kind of looked
Yeah.
down. I didn't know you
No,
did.
I was just trying to give the floor to.
I was going to half
Dan.
circle the whole thing.
Oh,
Just
sure, that's
run
fine.
it in line, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. A practical resource, I would say probably one of the books or authors that's kind of changed my mental health status over the years for the good has been Dr. Brene Brown. She wrote several books. but she wrote a book several years ago called Rising Strong, and it essentially, the subtitle is how the ability to reset your mind transforms the way that we live, love, parent, and lead. And I think that's the systematic mental health issue that our country is facing today, or that our world is facing today, is that we don't know how to handle the thoughts and the emotions and the feelings that run rampant in our brain all day. And instead, we allow them to create the narrative of our life, and then we begin to listen to the imaginary, and I'm not saying you're hearing voices, but we begin to listen to our subconscious as to what we should do, and the way that we should go, and the way that we should think, and the things that we should say, and the way that we should behave, just like we saw in this series. So I would say that, but at the end of the day, I would just say to speak up. You got to tell somebody, and if they don't listen, tell the next person, and if they don't listen, tell the next person, and keep talking until someone listens. I'm a major advocate of counseling. I think everyone, just like we should be in the gym, clearly I'm not, I'm working on that, but I think everyone, just the same way that we should take care of our bodies, we should be taking care of our minds. So we go to the gym to take care of our bodies, we need to be in counseling to help us process these thoughts and these emotions and these feelings. Even if you think you have this, I promise you eventually you won't have it. And when you reach that point, I hope someone is in your corner. I hope someone is there to listen. So why not start listening? Why not start speaking up now?
Yeah, that's good.
Say something.
Yeah.
All right, Dana?
I mean, mental health is important. You know, like you said, you go to the gym, you go to the doctor, you go to the dentist, you go, to do these things to take care of every part of our bodies
Except the hub that keeps you running.
except the hub that keeps you running, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That stigma, especially in the Black community, has got to be eradicated. Like, it has just got to be eradicated. There is nothing wrong with taking care of your body, soul, spirit, mind, all of it. And, to your point, Brandon, I tell my CASA girls, I have 2 teenage girls, and that I advocate for, and I tell them all the time, I tell them that same thing. This is so temporary. You are not, you right now is just a portion of your life. You do not have to live with this mindset that you are anything other than a child of God.
Yeah, that's good.
And let this experience be an opportunity to, like you say, be a catalyst for change. Like, you be the change you want to be in your life, and, just encouraging. But I got so intrigued by the whole redlining thing, because it just broke it down so much.
We barely even scratched the surface.
I know, we better, and so I came across this called The Color of Law
That's a great book.
by Richard Rothstein. And so I have that in my, it's in my Amazon cart.
I have it
right
in my
now.
office if you want it. Yeah, so.
Do you?
Resources.
I give it to you right
Oh,
now.
resources,
Yeah,
yes.
so I love that. And Dana works with CASA. She's a representative for a lot of CASA cases that come, and she advocates for them. So again, all of us on this panel that I brought in are not people who just talk a big game about, oh, this is what we should do, but all of us are walking it out. Doesn't just say just go to counseling. Like, he says, like, are you in counseling? Let's go. I'll go with you. Like, so the fact that what I love about the 3 of you especially is that you're not just like passive bystanders to the conversation we're having. You are actively walking into it. For me, some resources I would toss your way. Dustin, you mentioned earlier, this is a story I'm telling myself. We went through a book together by Brene Brown called Dare to Lead. Kind of talks through that narrative. What are you telling yourself versus what is true? And I loved that conversation that we had as a staff.
And that came out of the Rising Strong book.
Right,
That
yeah.
whole concept.
And so it's great. So either one of those books, I recommend just Brene Brown in general. You can find her on YouTube
She's on
and stuff
Netflix.
like all of it,
She is.
Netflix. Do that. It's great. Another one, again, Rothstein's Color of Law, if you really want to dig into redlining and what it looked like systemically throughout our culture and our history, that's another great book. And then even one that Dana turned me on to, which was The Warmth of Other Suns, which is Isabel Wilkerson, which talks about the migration. So if you want some more information, it's thick, it's a big old read.
It's a good book,
But I recommend
it's a good
it.
read.
Yeah, it's
Such
a great
good
idea.
read.
So those 3 books are really, really powerful. I just want to encourage you to, if nothing else, take action to learn something, to step in, to ask questions. You can post a comment here, send us a message. We want to help people grow. And so I always close kind of the same way. I want to remind all of us, this is a conversation that doesn't stop today. It's things that doesn't change overnight. You're not going to wake up tomorrow morning and be mentally healthy. You have to take steps. Not going to wake up tomorrow morning and we're going to be racially healed. We have to take steps towards that. It's a lifelong journey. It's a journey that I know our generation is committed to fighting for. I'm instilling it in my children. I told you guys about the great conversations that my boy and I had. He came home one day and Dad, did you know we used to sell people? And we had a whole conversation about slavery. And so it was just that's a conversation. He's like, that's not right. We shouldn't be doing that. I was like, yup. So those conversations, just have them. It's okay to not know all the answers, but we have to be willing to have those conversations. So I want, at least for me, I know for us here and a lot of you watching, we want to make the world different for our kids. We want to let the world that our kids grow up in be different, be one of change. And I want to remind everybody, this is all about learning and humility. There's a reason why there's a bunch of us here, because I don't know everything, and I don't think any of us would say that. At the end of the day, we learn in humility. We're humble about it. We recognize that we're not all the same, but we can all learn from one another. And so that's our great opportunity. So I want to challenge you. I want to encourage you. If you can, watch the show. If not, just take what we said, apply it, walk with it, have conversations about the topics that we brought up. And at the end of the day, I think the best resource, and I think when I brought Corbin on a few months ago, Corbin said one of the best things you can do is diversify your house. Who are you sitting at the table with? Who are you having dinner with? Who do your kids know are your friends? Those things are important. So I just want to encourage you, if nothing else, find somebody that doesn't look like you, have the experience of you. And I'm not just talking to white people, like all of us can benefit from learning from one another, because then and only then are we able to learn, to grow, and to shape this next generation on a holistic perspective of seeing each other as made in the image of God. So I want to encourage you and thank you. Encourage you to share it. Thank you for tuning in. And I just want to say to all of you that have watched all of this or listened to all of this, thank you for being dedicated and faithful. I just feel like this is a topic worth talking about, and I would take as much time as it needs to do it. So have a great evening. Next week we'll be back with a brand new episode as well. We have a few that'll come through until the summer. We'll take a break over the summer and go back strong again in September. But next week we'll have a brand new episode as well. So we'll see y'all then. Have a great evening.